Modern Davis and Kevin Jones. So Todd Anderson on Death Shadow aggro. And this has been really one of the more interesting decks in Modern. It's been about a year ago when the deck started posting results. I think at first a lot of players treated it like a gimmick style deck. You know, this was that crazy Death Shadow thing, but now it's a lot more respectable at this point.
It looks like a lot of other decks that have historically been flash in the pan. If a big part of your game plan involves cycling Street Wraith and cracking Mishra's Bauble, it's not a recipe for the most consistent hand. It certainly makes it difficult to evaluate your openers.
A card that you can only that doesn't even do anything unless you're under 13 life.
Right.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like one of those real decks.
Yeah, and we see decks of this nature. There's been Kiln Fiend decks historically that have really struggled against Jund. The more popular that Jund is in the format, the less you like decks like this. The Death Shadow is certainly in the argument for the modern decks most capable of killing on turn 2 or 3. And that's really where it finds its footing in the format.
Both players taking a mulligan here. And how much do you think, when we look at the Players' Championship this weekend, the control deck of choice, the 3-color removal spell deck, where we have very little Jund and Abzan this weekend and a lot of Grixis.
Right.
And how is that good or bad for Death Shadow?
Grixis is probably pretty close to even against Death Shadow. If there was a deck that Liliana plus Terminate is probably just better than what Delver or is going to be up to against the Death Shadow deck. This is the combination of multiple catch-all removal spells. And certainly when you look at lists like Davis's and Kevin Jones, they're trimming on Terminate as well, and that's your most important card. So the actual just like good stuff decks are probably better against Death Shadow.
So the fact that Jund is low, Abzan's low, that's good for a player like Todd Anderson.
Yes.
Caleb Scherer down to 5. Now keep in mind he is playing Dredge. Strategic mulliganing is just a part of this deck. You accept you're going to mulligan and that it often will be fine.
You have a lot of cards that you don't want to have in your hand. Narc Amoeba, Prized Amalgam, they don't really do anything.
And cards that if you do draw, you don't really care.
Yes.
Caleb keeping on 5 has scryed to the bottom. We're underway with that first game. It'll be a Gitaxian Probe from Todd Anderson. Hits himself down to 18. We're going to see just how many times he hits himself. Caleb's hand, 1 lander, but with Cathartic Reunion. He scryed to the bottom. I'm guessing he's just looking for that second land.
Yes. Wants to use this Insolent Neonate to find a second land. And this Cathartic Reunion, he really wants second land Golgari Grave Troll. That's exactly what he's looking for here. This hand has enough stuff where it makes sense to keep it, but it doesn't have enough stuff to really start going off. He's still missing the Dredger, and he needs a land.
You see on Todd's side, Thoughtseize, Street Wraith. I'm not sure he actually has a threat. He may just have a bunch of lands. Okay, we see a Death Shadow here. And that could play. He can punch himself a lot of times this turn.
I'd be pretty happy Thoughtseizing away that Insolent Neonate.
Thoughtseize from Todd Anderson. I'm assuming he's going to take the full 5. Why not? We're playing Death Shadow.
Yeah. If you're not willing to take 5 damage for your Thoughtseize on turn 1, you don't really want it. This deck especially wants it.
Interested to see if he takes Neonate or Cathartic Reunion. Yeah, he's going to go with Cathartic Reunion.
It is the bigger payoff card. You know, if Caleb just draws a land here, it's just a better play.
And Caleb does. He draws a second copy of Mana Confluence. So he'll go to 19 for that Neonate. But at this point, with no big Cathartic Reunion outlet and no Dredgers, there's a lot of pieces missing to the puzzle. So the 1/1 Menace Vampire from Shadows over Innistrad is made. Todd drawing another land this turn. Can't be what he was looking for. Cycle Street Wraith down to 11.
And some of the micro decisions for Death Shadow are really interesting. There's situations where you just want to play an untapped duel to lose 2 life for no reason.
Yeah, plays Death Shadow, fetch land, and says go. That Street Wraith cycled him into yet another land. Now, Death Shadow generally only plays 5 real lands. Todd is flooding to the point where you have to be concerned. He's got 2 fetches and 2 lands in his hand. Any land he draws from here on out actually doesn't make mana.
Yeah, he doesn't really have action, though notably all of these lands enable him to lose life, and he's really just a Teamer Battle Rage away from killing Caleb.
Yeah, that's the great part, right? He draws a Battle Rage and just fetches himself down to 5 and then wins.
So right now, Todd's at 11. Death Shadow checks compared to 13, so it's a 2-2, but he's got 10 life points he can play with. Make that a nice little 12-12.
Caleb, All his lands are mana confluences last time we checked. We'll see if he can do more. He uses the confluence to go down to 18. He'll conflagrate for 0, gets that in the graveyard. And says go. Now this isn't, he didn't play the second mana confluence. So the reasons for holding it would be if he dredges into a, because I think he drew a Grave Troll that turn. If he hits a Bloodghast, that land will really help him.
Mm-hmm.
Todd playing a fetch land and swinging. He drew yet another land this turn. Caleb's gonna block. Yeah, Todd, he's just got some lands, and actually he has 3 more. He has Godless Shrine, Blood Crypt, Sacred Foundry. So,
and that
means one of these 2 fetch lands in play for Todd cannot find a land.
That's not a huge issue. I mean, he really just wants them to beat up his own life total. The thing about this Death Shadow deck, though, is there's no real card selection. He's just playing off the top, and he needs to find a Temur Battle Rage.
So Caleb blocked and dredged the Grave Troll. Now, during his turn, he's going to dredge the Grave Troll again, and he's hitting a bunch of lands himself. This is 2 decks that really aren't functioning very well. Caleb did find a copy of Bloodghast and about 9 lands. And 1 prized Amalgam. So he will get Bloodghast and Amalgam this turn. That's not horrible.
That's something.
It is a 5-card hand, so there's not that much that he needs to do with it. And you see he'll go back to that mana confluence he'd hung on to. It's got to be glad he hung on to it now.
Right. Getting that Bloodghast trigger is certainly beneficial.
Yeah, and the Amalgam. I mean, I'm not playing mana confluence seemed kind of strange on turn 2, but it's really doing well for Caleb.
Mm-hmm. And now he has access to the requisite mana to flashback Conflagrate. That's not going to do a lot here.
Discard the rest of his hand. Not that Grave Troll again.
Yeah.
Weird deck. Caleb's going to go down to 16 off the mana confluences. Yeah, he's going to flashback a Conflagrate. I assume he goes upstairs. There's no way he can get rid of the Death Shadow.
Mm-mm. You don't necessarily want to lower Todd's life total.
Oh, that's so weird.
Because then Todd is applying more pressure.
It's bad to burn him, so you'd throw it into the Death Shadow just because you don't want to deal damage.
Yeah.
Ugh. That's so gross. Well, it's going to be 3 damage. We'll see what he wants to do with it. Yeah. Burning Death Shadow for non-lethal amounts is a really scary thing.
Yes. Conflagrating the Death Shadow, it forces Todd to crack at least one of these fetch lands, so he doesn't really care about that. They don't really matter.
Let's do it. He's going to think he chooses Todd. Yeah, Todd's down to 8.
All right.
Oh, that gives Bloodghast haste. Todd's down to 6.
Okay. And Todd needs to produce a Temur Battle Rage right now.
Caleb says go, puts that prized Amalgam back into play. Mm-hmm. Well, technically Caleb can block a little more, right?
Not on this turn. The Amalgam enters tapped. So if Todd can produce Temur Battle Rage on this turn.
Todd can block next turn if he doesn't hit it.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Todd is going to use a fetch land to go to 7. We'll see if he's going to 5 or 7.
And then there would be some concern about Caleb just producing more Bloodghasts.
Yeah. Gets the Stomping Grounds tapped. We'll see if this was on Caleb's end step. Keep in mind, yeah, if his last 3 mana bruising lands are all in his hand, so that Verdant Catacomb in play, that doesn't do anything.
I suppose Scherer is actually too light on resources to actually dredge and produce a Bloodghast on the following turn. He's empty-handed, so he can't produce a land drop and dredge.
Draws Mishra's Bauble. Yeah, actually, got the land tapped and went to 5 off the Bloodghast hit. He'll bobble, look at his own top card, puts it on top, gets to draw a card next turn. But can he survive? It's unclear at the moment.
Currently he can block the Amalgam with the Death Shadow, take 2 from the Bloodghast, and go to 3. So we'll find out how good the card on the top of his deck is.
Yeah, it wouldn't take much though, right? A Conflagrate in the yard from Caleb and could do it along with a Bloodghast.
Caleb is empty-handed currently.
Yeah,
so it's hard for him to assemble too much on this turn.
Sure.
If Caleb just draws and finds a 3rd land and unearths Scourge Devil,
that would win?
Looks like it to me. Yeah, there'll be 3 creatures attacking. 3 is the minimum power. Anderson's at 5.
Okay, with the bauble trigger on the stack, Todd's going to crack a fetch line. Well, I guess the top card of his deck wasn't a keeper.
All right.
He'll draw. It's a Wild Nicatl.
And that slow trip of the
Ugh,
Mishra's Bauble does not
yeah.
feel very good there.
Dredge 6 from Scherer, Faithless Looting, Bloodghast, Insolent Neonate, Mana Confluence, Insolent Neonate, and Mana Confluence no help. Oh, draws the troll. Doesn't really, unless he has a Conflagrate in graveyard, that doesn't really do anything.
Yeah, he has that Scourge Devil and multiple Faithless Lootings in his graveyard.
Okay.
I suppose he's dredging to try to find life from the loam to dredge on the following turn.
So he's giving Todd another turn. Says go. If he draws another card this turn, you know, that Conflagrate in his graveyard just gets one bigger every turn.
Mm-hmm.
He did not find a Dakmor Salvage either. That would have been a pretty great draw.
Mm-hmm.
He can get back the Bloodghast.
Right, though currently Todd needs to produce another blocker because Bloodghast plus Confligate for 2 would be lethal. Todd did, of course, pick up the Wild Nicatl.
Draws Gitaxian Probe as well. Can't cast that one, though, at all.
I'd advise against it.
Yeah, there's a Conflagrate in Caleb's graveyard. Todd has no blue mana.
Mm-hmm.
He's at 4. Yeah, he just can't play that, so he plays Nicatl and says go.
Yeah, Death Shadow commits to not ever being able to cast Gitaxian Probe for mana. And this is one of very few situations where that ends up hurting him.
Caleb dredges another Grave Troll. This time he puts a Haunted Dead into the graveyard and a life from the loam. Well, that's pretty good. 2 Grave Trolls in hand. Conflagrate in yard. Also Haunted Dead in yard. Well, Haunted Dead certainly should do it. But there's this issue where he would like to not give Todd another draw, but he's going to have to do it. Says go.
Mm-hmm. He could Conflagrate for 2. That's not enough.
Does Todd draw the Battle Rage? It's red. It's
Swift Spear.
Oh, okay. I was hoping. That would have been. I don't think Swift Spear will let him deal 16.
No, that 1/2 is not terribly impressive at this stage of the game.
So Monastery Swift Spear from Todd Anderson. Casts Gitaxian Probe. Okay, I like this. He's trying to find the Battle Rage. He goes to 2. He knows he's dead next turn now, but so he does get to play it.
Ugh, Mishra's
Finds Mishra's
Bauble.
Bauble.
Yuck.
That's not going to do it. Needed the Battle Rage there. It's a good line. I like how Todd has played to his outs here, especially actually getting to cash in that probe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's dead on the untap.
Yeah, he knows that he has to kill here and just was not able to do it. He gave himself the most possible looks.
Yeah. No way to stop Caleb from chump blocking the Death Shadow, and that's going to do it. Caleb Scherer and Dredge take the first game.
And with the way that the game started, Todd certainly had a lot of avenues to peel into the Team of Battle Rage. He did get a little bit flooded there, though notably he just had one piece of action really in his deck that he could draw to. It had to be that card specifically.
Yeah, there's not much else that gets him there from that spot. Very interesting. So, despite the mull to 5, it is Dredge that is victorious in the first game. So let's look over at the sideboards then, starting with Todd Anderson. He's got a pair of Hooting Mandrills, a Stony Silence, an Ancient Grudge, 2 copies of Faith's Shield, a Gut Shot, 2 Path to Exile, 3 Ravenous Trap, 2 Inquisition of Kozilek, and 1 Pyroclasm. Faith's Shield's an interesting one, and one that might actually play here.
Yeah, you can give yourself protection with Faith Shield.
Yeah, well, when you have Finest Hour, right?
You and permanents you control gain
Exactly.
protection from the color of your choice. That seems to counter a conflict.
You got to be really low on life, though. I don't know if you can pull that off.
See, that seems to be the primary game plan of the deck. So if he's high on life, that's actually probably bad for him. This card makes sense.
This is really a neat sideboard
And
card.
he's got some graveyard hate. 3 Ravenous Traps. Boom, you're in.
Yeah, there is. He's definitely had a deck like Dredge on the mind when he boarded those. Keep in mind, the players do not know each other's sideboards for this. Looking at Caleb Scheer's side, he's got an Abrupt Decay, an Ancient Grudge of his own, a Golgari Charm, 4 copies of Nature's Claim, 2 Collective Brutality, 4 Thoughtseize, and 2 Bajuka Bog.
I definitely like Thoughtseize. Try to get Todd off of the combo. You don't want to bring in too much stuff with the Dredge deck, but it's a form of disruption that matters. You know, Todd played that entire game looking for a Teamer Battle Rage. A Thoughtseize would have closed that if he had it. Collective Brutality kind of serves the same purpose, but you can't bring in this many cards. So it's probably just going to be some small number of a discard.
A small amount of discard. By and large, he's still hoping for his game 1 plan. Is it right to say that Teamer Battle Rage is just the most important card for Todd's side?
Yes. And then Caleb also has this Abrupt Decay. That one is excellent. That's going to be the first card coming in.
The one of.
Yes.
But it will be great if he can draw it. For sure. Players can get ready for a second game here. Todd will be back on the play. Now, 2 weeks ago, we were in Atlanta covering the Invitational where Jacob Baugh won the Invitational. And on top of that, brought Todd Anderson that last spot in the Players' Championship. And we do have the token. This is Jacob Baugh's energy token. Of course, he did play Aetherworks Marvel to a win there. You see the Team Card Hoarder player there. Summoning creatures through the Aether using his energy reserve.
He's doing a Spirit Bomb. This is a Dragon Ball Z reference.
So okay, so you know what are the creatures? What's he summoning?
Those are the animals of the planet Earth giving him their energy.
All right, well, that will be available at our first open next year, the 22nd and 23rd of January. We are underway, though, for game number 2. Todd Anderson starts on Godless Shrine, Mishra's Bauble, no plays go. Death Shadow continuing to be great. Here's a Thoughtseize from Caleb Scherer. We'll get to see what it was Todd had. And this is a weird one. He's got Ravenous Trap, 2 Mutagenic Growths, Wild Nacatl, and Monastery Swiftspear. He couldn't actually cast anything here.
No castable spells, though a piece of Graveyard Hate and a redraw. This hand is probably on the low side of keepable.
Yeah, this is when people talk about why doesn't every deck run Street Wraith? Why doesn't every deck run Mishra's Bauble? It's the issue is that a card like Bauble leads to mulliganing decisions like this where you're supposed to keep it, but there's just a lot of uncertainty.
Yes.
Todd will cycle Street Wraith. Caleb did take the Graveyard Hate card. And Todd bricks, does not find any more lands, just has a hand of uncastables. Now it is up to Caleb to close the game before Todd manages to recover.
Real bad news for Anderson there.
Well, now we can see what did Caleb keep his hand based on. You know, a Cathartic Reunion here would be a disaster for Todd. I think Caleb has it, leftmost card. He sure does. Does he have a Dredger to go with it?
Definitely a few black cards in the hand.
Yeah, maybe some Brutalities and Thoughtseizes, so it may not be the best Cathartic Reunion we've seen.
This could be a hard-gassed, blood-gassed turn.
Yeah, it looks like at least one more Thoughtseize. So, Caleb will go for Cathartic Reunion. Let's see what he discards. Looks like Life from the Loam, that's a Dredger, and Bloodghast.
There's a combo.
Yeah, get the land, I guess there's no lands in the graveyard yet. He'll Dredge Loam. Here's some lands, though. 1, 2, 2 of them. All right, not the perfect 3, but that'll do anyway. Now, second draw for Union, that's a natural draw. And third draw is a natural draw. Gets another Thoughtseize. It's too much. Too much of that.
Thoughtseize is not generally exceptional against a hand of uncastables.
All right, well, Todd is going to put up a fight. On this turn, he does hit his mana source. His hand is unlocked. He needed to hit it this turn to have any chance.
Yes.
And now we will see just what he can do. He goes to immediately fetch shocks down to 13.
Yeah, he'll get a creature on the battlefield, and he has picked up Teamer Battle Rage. Multiple Mutagenic Growths. He can
This is dead really quickly, yeah.
do a lot of damage with this hand.
Got Stomping Grounds. That enables all the cards in his hand. Now has to decide Swift Spear or Nacatl. He's got 2 Nacatls and a Swift Spear.
I assume that it's Nacatl this turn. There is an argument for Swift Spear.
Well, it's interesting. Which one do you think is bigger next turn, right? So Nacatls are going to be a 3/3, and he'll say go. That's what he went with. If he was planning to all in next turn, I guess
You get
technically
a lot,
the Swift Spear's bigger.
Right, you get a lot of prowess triggers. If Todd is able to produce another red source, then he can have Swift Spear and Battle Rage on the following turn in addition to having the Nacatl already there.
That's just the best.
Right.
Back over to Caleb. He's got a lot of Thought Seizes. Perhaps he can pick apart Todd's hand. Looks like he's going to lead on one of them.
And Todd could only make the Swift Spear, by my count, a 16 next turn, right? Double Mutagenith puts you up to 7. Battle Rage is 8, double strike. So given that that's not lethal, I think it just makes sense to go for the Nacatl.
Here's Thoughtseize from Scherer. Yeah, you're thinking that Todd he's 2 swings away from lethal, not 1?
Right.
Caleb gets to see the hand. The scary card here has got to be Teamer Battle Rage.
Yes. We would be very surprised if that one stays in Todd's hand.
Still got to be worried, though. Just Nacatl into next turn Nacatl and use Mutagenic Growth as pump spells is actually a lot of damage. Caleb takes away, though, the Temur Battle Rage. It's the biggest burn spell. No double strike. Not when you have free pump spells. Another Gemstone Mine for Caleb. His mana's going to be great here. Now, he's playing a slower game, so these mining counters could come back to get him.
Yeah, he does have access to life from the loam, though. He generally doesn't need a ton of mana to work with.
You see his hand got another Bloodghast. He has that loam you mentioned. 2 lands in the graveyard to get.
We're getting close to hasted Bloodghast territory as this game is progressing, with Todd at 13.
Looks like he will loam back the 2 remaining lands. Those are both fast lands. Neat trick here with Gemstone Mine. He can actually, if he wants us to come to play untapped, can use that middle Gemstone Mine. It'll make a mana, then hit the graveyard, so his land will come into play untapped.
This deck's full of combos.
Yeah, if I blow up my own lands. Big draw, though, from Todd Anderson. It's a copy of Become Immense. It's not Temur Battle Rage, but it sure is close. The biggest pump spell his deck has to offer. That puts him up to 10 points a pump.
Yep. And
it's
Caleb,
close to being lethal.
Caleb still has no blockers.
Yeah, Bloodghast cannot block.
Todd can just spend a little bit of time, cast a second Nacatl on this turn, get some beatdowns on.
Yeah, it could put Caleb down to 3 if he emptied the whole hand. It's close.
And the math still checks out, where Todd does not have a lethal attack. On the following turn, let's see, he has pumps for 10. So if Caleb does nothing, this hit from the Wild Nacatl puts Caleb to 13. And then he has double Mutagenic plus Become Immense, which is 10 points a pump on a 3/3. So Caleb has to do something on this turn.
Swing for 4 from Todd. He added Monastery Swift Spear to the board, bringing Caleb down to 12. And you're right, Todd is setting up for a kill next turn, and he's gonna have it with some insurance as well. You see a Dredge from Caleb Scherer. A Conflagrate in his hand. That's not doing much at the moment.
Yeah, and Caleb thought seized away the Battle Rage, but Trample doesn't matter if you don't have any blockers. Todd just has plenty of pump left over.
I mean, Shear's hand just really isn't doing much. You know, where that Cathartic Reunion discarded a Bloodghast and a Life from the Loam. That's not that explosive.
And he had that problem. He really kind of drew too many sideboard cards. He didn't need that many Thought Seizes. He needs to be dredging. Of course, he certainly didn't board out
he boarded out the Dredges.
Golgari Grave Troll, so it wasn't specifically he drew it over a card in his sideboard. It's just that he ended up drawing too many of these cards that don't have enough impact. You kind of want to draw exactly one Thoughtseize in these games.
And the first Thoughtseize was really great for Caleb, but you see these other ones, he's not even getting around to casting them.
Right.
I guess even the second one played. He took a Ravenous Trap and a Temur Battle Rage. Those are both important hits.
Sure. Yeah, taking the Battle Rage kept him alive for this turn.
It looks like what Caleb's thinking about doing is conflagrating for 0, flashing it back, and trying to get the pump spells out of Todd's hand.
Yeah, you can clean up the 2 Mutagenic Growths that you know about.
Conflagrate for 0. Does he hang on to a land? He has 6 cards in his hand. So red. Gemstone Mine hits the graveyard. It's interesting. Is he going to do it for 6 or for 5?
I expect it for 5. You do get to choose how you divide Conflagrate. Not every X spell works quite like this, but 2 at this. Well, actually,
3 and 2.
If you just use Mutagenic Growth on Wild Nacatl, then you get a Prowess trigger on the Swift Spear. That really just messes up.
Gross.
You probably just have to go 5 at the Nacatl or the Swift Spear or something like that.
Yeah, because if he goes 3 and 2, 1 Mutagenic Growth saves both creatures.
Yes. So
that's bad.
He's going 5 in one direction.
Yeah. Kill one of them. Or give me 2 pump spells.
Right. It is fortunate for Scherer that he's using Gemstone Mine and not Mana Confluence in this game. The damage he would have to take would have killed him already.
So
here.
Caleb went for 3 and 2, which is probably just worse.
Yes.
Todd, 1 Mutagenic Growth and the Prowess saves both guys. So Todd will get to keep an extra mutagenic growth. See Caleb swinging with Bloodghast. Plays a land that's actually going to be untapped. Gets his Bloodghast back. Not that that matters.
Yeah, nothing you can do with that.
And Todd says, yeah, untap it. Yeah, I mean, Caleb at 12, and Todd has 8 points, 4 points of power, 8 points of pump. This is going to be game number 2 over in Todd Anderson's camp. Caleb's empty-handed. This one's easy. Become immense, growth, game. And for Todd Anderson, I'm going to have to say after that mulligan, I was not sure that he would be able to win the game.
No, he needed to produce that mana source. He was still a bit constrained on mana even as the game progressed. He would like to have a second red and or green source there. But yeah, was able to pull it out. Caleb just wasn't up to much of anything.
Well, I mean, that game just kind of highlights how messed up a card like Mutagenic Growth can be, right? Todd doesn't have any lands, but his lands are all... Because when your spells don't cost mana, I guess that's fine.
Yeah, he can still cast plenty of mutagenic growth without any lands.
All right. Well, Todd Anderson on the SCG Tour, he was the last player to qualify for the Players' Championship. Last year's runner-up, wanted to make that repeat appearance here. The 30-year-old from Roanoke, Virginia, originally from Alabama. He was one of the season's 3 points leaders. That's how he qualified for the Players' Championship this year. 2-1 record in Legacy with Sneak and Show. He's playing Death Shadow aggro in Modern. Already beat Caleb once today. He's looking to beat him again. And really had a great tournament last year as well.
Then I like the decision to play Death Shadow. We certainly saw in Game 2 there the differences between Infect and Death Shadow in this matchup. Frequently, Conflagrate is just excellent against Infect, but it didn't amount to much of anything against Death Shadow there. The fact that Wild Nacatl is just a 3/3, it's a lot harder to Conflagrate that one down.
Caleb quickly mulliganing here Game 3. We did see Game 1, Caleb mulligan to 5. That was actually the game he won.
Yeah, the deck mulligans a lot. This is fine.
Things that Dredge does, it's fine. So Caleb, as he mulligans here, the 20-year-old from St. Louis, Missouri, just 2 open top 8s this year. And 2 open top 8s total, none of them actually this year. Was pretty quiet on the tour, did very well in the Legacy Classics. And that was what helped him earn that repeat trip back to the Players' Championship. Storm really just has been his deck.
Off to a rocky start with the deck in this tournament.
Yeah, he went 1-2 in his pod play. You're not wrong. Has gone so far, we've seen combo deck in Legacy, combo deck in Modern. There's a good combo deck in Standard as well. You could,
Man after your heart.
I approve. So that's just... He's got to make it to the Standard rounds first, though. This match is going to matter. Keeps his 6, Scry. Going to keep it on top. That's scary enough. So Caleb will start on Faithless Looting.
The odds that Caleb kept a card on top and doesn't discard a Dredger here seem pretty low.
Well, he's going to do it. Discards Narcomoeba and Bloodghast.
Well, that's good news for Todd.
Yeah, he kept some basic Mountain on top, then drew Mountain, Thoughtseize, and I don't think he has the red source either.
Yeah, Caleb's not up to much of anything. It looks like the first action he has, outside of triggering the Bloodghast, is getting to 3 lands and flashing back Faithless Looting.
I think what he kept a hand. I mean, when you tell me that your 6-card hand is going to have Copperline Gorge, Faithless Looting, I'm probably already down to keep it. You see his last 2 cards, an Insolent Neonate and a Thoughtseize. Right, just based on that and how good the card is in the deck, there's a lot to like. It does look like his keep was Looting, Gorge, a lot of the stuff you still see in his hand.
It is true that Todd pressures his own life total very aggressively, and Bloodghast is quite a good card in this matchup, though he just doesn't have enough going on.
Yeah, maybe he's on a mull to 5, so that makes some more sense. Yeah, it was on 5 cards. So, Todd, meanwhile, just beats his own life total down to 11, it looks like. Yeah, Street Wraith, Probe, Street Wraith, Fetch Land, Overgrown Tomb, 2, 4, 6, 7, 9. Yep, we're down to 11. Go.
There's no shortage of semi-keepable 5-card hands that you would justify after the fact and just definitely lose the game. It's so hard to mulligan to 4.
Even for Dredge, 4 is... I'm probably off on 4.
No.
I've seen Dredge win on 4s, actually, but And that's probably might be the only deck in Modern that does that. Mishra's Bauble, also from Todd. He's going to look at Caleb's top card. He knows Caleb's hand. Might as well keep that in place. Says go.
Perfect information. It's another combo. Pro Bauble.
What is it? It's another Neonate. Well, these guys can be chump blockers for Scherer. He'll play a basic Mountain, get back Bloodghast. Sure, he's doing things, but without a Dredger, this is a stack of 2-1s and 1-1s. You see, he plays both Neonates. Last card's Thoughtseize. That one's probably going to be looted away to the Neonate. He says go.
2-1s and 1-1s aren't bad here.
No, actually. Though Todd's picked up a pretty great card. It's a copy of Ravenous Trap.
Okay. Now Caleb's in a lot of trouble. His best possible draws involve him starting to dredge for a lot on the next turn. Now Todd kind of has that shut off. And really, a Team or Battle Rage should win this game kind of at any point from here.
Yeah, Todd doesn't have the Battle Rage. He may have to win more legitimately. He's got a Nacatl. He's got a Mutagenic Growth. Looks like a Swift Spear. And actually, 2 Swift Spears. That maybe just these attacks from creatures will be enough as well. Todd's going to fetch down to 10. Looks like down to 8. Now, how much does Todd have to be concerned about losing? I mean, he's dealt a lot of damage to himself.
Mm-hmm.
To 8. Caleb has 4 power of creatures in play. I'm a little concerned.
2 of this power does have Menace. His deck does play Conflagrate. Doesn't have a ton of cards in hand, but Todd does have to be mindful of his life total.
Here's Swift Spear.
The play patterns for his deck don't allow him to stay at a terribly high number.
Yeah.
But aggressively shocking below 8, that would be ambitious.
A swing from both creatures. Now remember, the Death Shadow's currently a 5/5, so you got to remember that card gets big very quickly. Caleb will chump block the Shadow. Use the Neonate's ability to discard Thoughtseize and draw. Draws another Thoughtseize.
Not what he was looking for.
No. Takes 1 off the Swift Spear. And then Todd plays a Nacatl, says go. Nacatl still managing to be a 3/3. Draw from Caleb. There's the Grave Troll.
That's just rude of that card to show up in that window.
Yeah, it should have been.
Does still have Neonate. He can get something going, theoretically.
Caleb at 19. It's a very, very tenuous 19, though. Todd has 9 power on the board. There are some series of pump spells that will win the game next turn, even without Battle Rage.
Mm-hmm. And the best thing that Caleb can really do to stay alive this turn is just hope to Grave Troll over some Narcomoebas and get some other blockers on the battlefield.
Caleb swings Neonate and then dredges. So this means if he doesn't find a blocker, he's going to be pretty dead. Dredges 6 into another Grave Troll. But yeah, there's no blocker. He just took away his only blocker for Death Shadow.
Mm-hmm. And Todd has a Mutagenic
That's going to
Growth.
kill him. Yeah.
Another Swift Spear as well.
Todd deciding if he wants to Ravenous Trap. Caleb did just dredge. Sure. Gets his graveyard. Yeah, Bloodghast doesn't block, though.
Nope. Yeah, Todd basically just has to turn his creatures sideways here.
Land. Here's another Swift Spear. So he's at 7. With the land, he could go to 4. So that'd be 9 off the Death Shadow. The Nacatl would make it 12. The Swift Spears would make it 14. The Pump plus Prowess would make it 18, 19, 20. Yeah, that's just lethal. It's 20 points.
That's not a low number.
Death Shadow's a messed up card. Now I get to find out, is that actually the count? I think Todd believes it is, too. Shock's down to 4. Are there any instants? I guess on Black Mana, there's no Abrupt Decay, right?
Yeah, and
no black.
You know that one of the cards in Caleb's hand is Golgari Grave Troll.
Yeah. Mutagenic Growth. Something. Paying 2 life. So the Nacatl's a 5/5. The Death Shadow's an 11/11. The Swift Spears are 2/2s. That's 20 damage. Game and match go to Todd Anderson playing Death Shadow. So for the second time today, he defeats Caleb Scherer. And that is going to move. Todd will lock in day 2 of play now.